YouTube. If anybody else would like to ask questions on YouTube, we would like to answer them.
Hell yeah.
Destiny says, hi, I have a resource guarding dog, but not towards other dogs. He loves being with dogs. Does very well at daycare and with the people there. It's towards people when I am holding him or if my boyfriend is holding and he is on leash. They could stand pretty close, but can't reach out to pet him because he will lash out. And he does fine off-leash with people, like at dog parks and daycare, but does not do well when he connected to me by leash. I've had multiple incidents where off-leash dogs run up to him on walks, and he doesn't care and is very playful. But if it's a person, he gets extremely protective. I've hired a trainer and have seen much improvement with one session. But what do you suggest as a second opinion? Well, first off, just pointing out this last part here. You hired a trainer, and you've seen much improvement with one session. That's fantastic, first off.
Yeah.
There are not many trainers out there that will give you that much success in one session, so you must have hired a good one, which I like. This is great. I like it. But if you're having success with your trainer, don't seek out information from somebody else.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
This is part number one of the question, right? Like, I appreciate you asking it, but the second you start ping-ponging, I see a lot of trainers falling, or not a lot of trainers, a lot of owners fall into this trap, and they ping-pong from trainer to trainer, right? It's like, let me take some information here. 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 And the old saying, if there's one thing, one thing two dog trainers can agree on, it's that the third one is wrong, right? Most dog trainers are going to have a conflicting view on things, right? And it's not that the concepts are incorrect that anybody is going to refer to you, but you got to keep in mind, every trainer has a specific program outlined for a specific reason. So this trainer that you're working with right now, you're on session number 1, and I'm sure you just hit the tip of the iceberg, right? You're just starting to understand some very basics of how to communicate more effectively with your dog, and that'll probably turn into understanding how to communicate more effectively with other people so you don't run into this situation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Where if you start seeking information from elsewhere, you start messing with that program because you're trying new things, and then their program no longer works because you're not actually following it anymore. So let me caveat with this. I'll give you my opinion on this because I think it'll be good and informative for everybody else, but I do not want you to follow my advice until after you've finished your training if you are still having problems with it. This is the key, guys. Stick with one instruction, period.
Yep.
Okay, so resource guarding, right? This is one where I don't necessarily say that it's resource guarding. Right? Because here's the thing. This would fall into the trap of just general protectiveness of one's self, right? I think most dogs, when they're on a leash, when they display any sort of reactive or quote-unquote resource guarding behaviors of owners, most of them are not actually guarding their owners in that case. Most of them are guarding themselves. Right? Most of them are scared, and because they're scared in that situation, they start reacting. Now, why are they scared, and why are we seeing the reaction in only that type of scenario, but not in situations when they're off leash, right? Well, first off, it's because on the leash, and this is why we don't do on-leash greetings, on the leash, your dog is immediately put in a position of restraint, right? They only have, let's say they're on a 6-foot leash. They only have a 6-foot radius around you they can move within. That's not very far. If somebody's coming into their space, that 6-foot radius feels like nothing. That feels like they have no escape route.
Absolutely
so you've eliminated
nothing.
flight, right?
Yep.
Which means that fight is the only option left. So what happens? You tap into fight or flight. Somebody invades your dog's space. Your dog can't get away. They're uncomfortable. They react. Now, why does your dog do this to people and not dogs? Well, this is a simple one. Your dog is more scared of people than they are of dogs, which is very normal because here's the thing. Let's break that one down for a minute. Dogs typically will be more scared of people because they communicate like shit with dogs. People do not understand dogs. They don't understand dog body language. They don't understand how to communicate effectively with them, right? So because of that, we put them in vulnerable positions all the time that make them feel uncomfortable. Right. And we tend to make fearful dogs worse because of that. We try to socialize them and communicate with them in all these improper ways that puts a lot of unnecessary pressure on them. Right. Yeah. Dogs, on the other hand, are different because most of the time, at least, if we're socializing them properly. Hold on, my phone's blown up over here. I got to flip it over so I'm not distracted. Most of the times, if we're socializing dogs properly, dogs understand this stuff better than we do. It's interesting. When I socialize dogs, like we were socializing 2 dogs today, right? I got this Dutch Shepherd client I'm working with, has a history of some like dog aggression issues, people aggression issues. He's muzzled, whatever. And we're socializing with another dog at our facility, a nice playful dog. And man, this play was wild. They were running, playing, jumping, biting, growling, just looking wild, when they were playing with each other. And the owner's like, how do you know when you need to step in? I was just like, there's not a great answer for that because you just kind of know. Right? Because here's the thing. Even though all of this looks insane and it looks like, holy shit, I'm kind of uncomfortable about this and stuff right now, these dogs understand this better than we ever will. They speak each other's language, right?
They're dogs.
They're dogs. They understand the same stuff, right? So because of that, most dogs are more comfortable with other dogs. That's why we use dog socialization as one of the biggest icebreakers for new dogs that are maybe insecure that come to our facility, right? So that's the first step of it, is understanding that when the dog is on leash, they're going to be more protective of themselves because they're scared. They're better with dogs than they are with people just because they understand each other better. We do weird things to them and we put them in vulnerable situations. Now, how do we start to work through this? Because that's the real question, right?
Storming out there.
No, I hear that. So first off, you got to understand that our dogs will always react if they don't feel like we're going to react for them, right? So on leash situations, leash reactivity, things like that. What's the very first step to work through leash reactivity issues? Very first step of it is getting confident in telling people, listen, we're not interacting right now.
Yep.
Sorry.
Not happening.
It's not happening. I don't know what to tell you, but you can't come up and pet my dog.
Yeah.
You can't let your dog come up to my dog, right?
Yeah.
The second you start doing that, especially if you are not used to doing that, your dog's going to start being like, whoa, these dogs aren't even coming up to me anymore. This is weird. And they'll still be reactive. They're still used to needing to defend themselves in these types of scenarios. But what's going to happen is they're going to start little by little realizing that they're not put in this pressurized situation. Their stress level is going to come down. Their frustration is going to come down a little bit. And you're going to see that reactivity start to diminish a little bit, right? Then, over time, what we're going to do is we're going to start training the dog, right? We're going to teach leash walking. We're going to teach the dog a proper heel position. We're going to teach the dog a proper sit or down stay. So when we come to a stop and are having a conversation with somebody, we can put them into that. Now we've relieved the pressure of nothing's happening to our dog that's putting them in this flight situation or this fight situation. And then we start giving direction, right? So we start telling our dog, hey, no, you need to stay right here right now. I need you to not mess with them over there because they're leaving you be. I'm protecting you from them, so I need you to mind your own business right here. And we start doing that. And then what happens is over time as we do that, we get in a situation, our dog gets uncomfortable by something, and they go, zoop, what am I supposed to do, pal? And then you hit the golden goose.
The golden goose.
You hit the golden goose of on-leash stuff. And your dog starts looking to you for guidance when they're stressed out because they know that you're going to handle the scary things for them, which is the number one key with this. And 2, you're going to give them direction through those things. And 3, you're not going to take any of their shit, right? Once you hit that, you're good to go. So hopefully your trainer is teaching you these things because if you do all of the training related things, but not that very first one of keeping people out of your dog's space, you're going to fail. And if you just do that without the training, you're probably going to fail as well, but you'll be better off with that at least.
Yeah. I think it kind of ties to the same thing we were talking about with the fence, reactivity. You have to assert yourself to keep your dog safe. Like, don't just
100%.
Don't just expect it just to happen,
None of this stuff just happens. And this is an interesting one, and this is one I'll forever be preaching about with people, is people don't need to come up and pet your dogs, right? And a lot of people are like, well, what if I want to go to the park and I want to have my dog go run and play or want to have people come up and pet them and I feel bad telling them no and this and that? It's like, okay, cool. You're going to struggle with this issue forever then, you know?
Yeah.
It's the reality of the situation. People don't need to do it, right? We get into the environmental socialization side of things. If you want your dog to be neutral to things around them, you can't have people come up to them. You can't have dogs come up to them. One, because they're not going to be neutral to things around them. And two, you're putting them in a vulnerable position where if something happens, they bite somebody, they get uncomfortable, they're more likely to have something negative happen in that situation. And that's why we see over and over again, my dog's fine off leash, my dog's bad on leash. Cool. Don't have people mess with them when they're on leash and only socialize them when they're off leash.
Yep.
Because that's proper socialization. That's how we do dog socialization properly. We make sure there's no toys, no food, no affection going on. We put two dogs together with each other and you let them interact and you let them figure it out because they're dogs and they, typically speaking, always know how to communicate with each other. You want to do proper people socialization. You don't fuck with the dog all the time. You let your dog into that situation with those people and you have mutual respect for each other. You understand when the dog is stressed out. You understand when the dog is giving you cues that they don't want to interact and you leave them alone. And when the dog seems like they're coming out of their shell and needs a little bit of attention and stuff like that, you can interact with them and play with them. That's what dogs do with each other. If you watch a pack of dogs playing with each other, you watch the daycare going on when we have them at our facility, you're going to see the playful dogs in the middle running around, interacting, sniffing everybody, stuff like that. And then you're going to see the outliers that are a little bit more uncomfortable or nervous because it's their first day or they're a little bit more shy, sitting off to the side. And dogs do not go up to those dogs. They leave them alone because they know they need time to get used to that environment. And the second those dogs start coming out of their shell and making their way over towards the center, maybe letting out a couple air sniffs, you'll see some of the calmer, more social dogs will then start slowly approaching. They don't smother them. They slowly start approaching and helping them get out of their shell until it turns to play, right? Yeah. If you watch dogs, you understand how they know how to do this. And we can learn so much by watching them do this, by understanding that's how we should be interacting with dogs. We don't need to smother them with affection.
Yeah.
We don't need to hug them and kiss them and do all these things and drag them and force them into these fearful situations. If they're nervous, it's okay. You leave them be, right?
Yeah.
You don't mess with them and you let them get acclimated and comfortable to their environment and you let them mind their own business over there. And then when they start coming out of their shell and they want something, you cannot smother them and freak them out all of a sudden of like, oh, hey, you're coming out of your shell. Oh my God, you're right?
Yeah.
You let them ease into it and you go in at their comfort level and you help them. That's the key. As opposed to expecting things from them, you help them through these situations. And that's the key to people socializations. You get good at reading the dog's body language, right? And you understand how much to push and where to push to help progress that dog just enough. And you, as the owner, it's your job to know those things so you can control that environment around the dog to make it productive, right?
Yep.
And most of that is going to be you controlling the people that you let socialize with your dog. Yep. If you have a dog that's uncomfortable and want to socialize them better, right? And obviously, if your dog has aggression issues or you have a history of biting and stuff like that, you could use a muzzle throughout this process. Gunner, the dog I was just describing, that Dutch Shepherd that had some human aggression issues, Matt was doing a lesson with us, right? Matt was wanted to interact with the dog a little bit and stuff, and we used the muzzle for it for safety. And guess what? They were able to have a really great interaction that was polite and mutually respectful of each other, and it was very productive for the dog because we knew how to do that, right? And it's okay. Yeah. And you as the owner can control that and create the safe environment and also have the communication established to give the leadership and the direction as you need to help them through these situations. So your dog obviously isn't acting up, because I'm not saying they're 100% innocent, right? Yeah. Sometimes they do act out and they do, incorrect things and they jump and they growl and they bite. And we do want to obviously send the correct message when they do those types of things. But that's the key with it, right? In environments, you let the dog environmentally socialize by not letting stuff mess with it and making your dog ignore anything outside of their radius, right? When you're socializing them with dogs, you remove resources, you put them into that situation, and you let them interact with each other and figure it out because they know better than you do. And with people, you make sure that you are understanding and respectful of the dog's needs. You watch how dogs socialize with each other and understand that kind of stuff so you know where and when to push, and then everybody's happy. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. It's like, this is... I don't know if this is the right thing to think about, but let's say you have a friend you met at work, and then he finally wants you to hang out with his group of friends that he's known for years, and you don't know anybody, and you go to a giant party where there's 15 people you've never seen before, you don't just go there and start going wild and crazy and like being loud and stuff, because everyone's gonna be like, oh, so that guy.
I think a better example of that, to your point, you got a friend, new friend group, whatever. They invite you to hang out with their friend group. How's that typically go? If it's with a actual good friend of yours, what do? They spend the time introducing you around. They ease you into it. They start sharing some information about you to that person. Those people don't just smother you right off the rip.
Exactly.
They help you ease into the conversation as you're ready.
Yeah.
And then there's mutual respect amongst that, and knowing that you're the new person, they allow you to speak a little bit, and you start getting your piece out, and then little by little it becomes a nice friendly, the real intense kind of relationship that it turns into eventually. But it doesn't start out that way.
No.
It turns into that over time.
And we all see the human cues.
100%.
And that's what dogs do. They see the cues of each other.
100%.